In business today, three things to know. First, President Obama speaks at the United Nations and makes a diplomatic overture to Iran, a country with a 30-year history of state-sponsored terrorism. Could this lead to a softening of economic and political sanctions? Then, home prices record double-digit growth, sustainable or a bubble that will burst with higher interest rates. And that five-star restaurant you go to might just be a one-star greasy spoon. Why the government feels the need to protect us from bogus online reviews? Come on, we could figure that out ourselves. Arise Exchange starts now. Hello, everyone. I'm Andrew Schmertz. The major indices extended losses for a fourth straight day. The markets posted modest losses as investors pretty much just remain on the sidelines, waiting for any news about the budget impasse. At least today, no one at the Federal Reserve said anything to confuse the markets more. With that said, let's take a look at how the markets here in the United States wrapped up the day. The Dow Jones Industrial Average falling about 67 points to 15,334.59. The S&P 500 down about 4.5 points. The Nasdaq, though, posting some gains on strength of Facebook, by the way, up 297 to 3768. Facebook was upgraded today. Here's why the Fed has been a bundle of confusion. So far this week, two Fed governors took a dovish tone on monetary policies, meaning they support the decision to delay tapering of the $85 billion a month in bond buying. We also call that the stimulus program. But the Dallas Fed president says he's more hawkish and pushing for a speedier retreat from the stimulus plan. All of this, however, may wait until a new Fed chair takes over from Ben Bernanke. Well, the Fed's low interest rate policy has no doubt helped the housing market. The Case-Shiller Housing Index out today reports that home prices climbed 0.6% in July, and get this, 12.4% for the year. That was in line with economists' expectations. That increase is the best since the height of the housing bubble in 2006. About 10 major markets reported double-digit gains. Also of note, 2.5 million homeowners who were underwater with their mortgages are no longer underwater. But mortgage rates now have started to rise, and that is leading to a slowdown in mortgage lending. Most of the major banks now reporting that lending is dropping off. That worries some that it could lead to a reversal in the gains of the housing market. But many economists are not yet calling this a bubble. Also of concern today, consumer confidence declined slightly in September. That followed a decline as well in August. That might be a result of the budget impasse in Washington and the continued meandering of the jobs market. Two stories that signal the ongoing turnaround of once bankrupt U.S. automakers. For the first time in 8 years, the debt of General Motors isn't considered junk. The credit agency Moody's raised GM's debt rating to investment-grade status. Moody's says GM has a better ability to pay back lenders and is a reflection of improved finances. GM responded by announcing a new $3.2 billion bond offering to repurchase 120 million shares held by its unions. And the public will once again get a chance to own part of Chrysler. Chrysler's two owners, Fiat and a healthcare trust of the United Auto Workers Union, agreeing to an initial public offering. Fiat had hoped to buy out the UAW, but the union trust balked at the price and then demanded the IPO. However, that IPO could be called off if Fiat and the union come to terms on a Fiat takeover. Fiat would like to own both companies to create a giant international auto industry. And Twitter may be ready to tweet NYSE, as in the New York Stock Exchange. What do we mean? USA Today reporting that Twitter has picked the New York Stock Exchange to list its shares over the NASDAQ. That's a big victory for NYSE, since tech companies tend to end up on the NASDAQ instead. What's behind the decision? Well, you'll remember the whole debacle with the Facebook IPO at NASDAQ. That might have Twitter looking at the New York Stock Exchange. Twitter aims to sell upwards of $1.7 billion in stock on a total company valuation of $16 billion. That barely fits in 140 characters or less. Well, sorry to break it to you, but not everything you read on the internet is true. That five-star restaurant you go to might actually deserve only two, because people are gasp, I say this, writing fake reviews on sites such as Yelp. How could anyone really do that? And apparently, we now need the government to protect us from those fakes, from those fake reviewing evildoers, because that's basically what New York's Attorney General thinks they are. Eric Schneiderman has gone on a crusade against companies that post fake reviews on services. Schneiderman reached a settlement with 19 companies that hired freelancers to write glowing reviews of their products online. One such company, a yogurt shop in Brooklyn. Schneiderman says these companies engage in, quote, intentional deceit across the internet. Oh, the horror. Speaking before the United Nations General Assembly today, President Obama set a cautiously optimistic tone about the prospects for diplomacy with Iran surrounding its nuclear program. Here's the president.
The United States and Iran have been isolated from one another since the Islamic Revolution of 1979. I don't believe this difficult history can be overcome overnight. But I do believe that if we can resolve the issue of Iran's nuclear program, that can serve as a major step down a long road towards a different relationship.
While the White House is warming, possibly, to future talks with the Iranian government about its nuclear program, President Obama has made it clear that he wants real, meaningful action by the Iranian regime. Joining us to talk about what this means for possible economic sanctions against Iran is Caleb Maupin. He is with the International Action Center. The organization bills itself as an anti-capitalist and anti-imperialist organization that opposes sanctions. Caleb, thank you for coming by today. So this is a business show, so we kind of like business and we like corporations, but we want to talk to you a little bit because you know Iran pretty well and you know this issue pretty well. Let me just start, though, from your honest perspective. What are the real odds here that the United States is going to see an opening?
Well, it would be very good for international business if Iran and the United States could start trading with each other again.
It'll be good for big oil companies. That's why I'm a little bit surprised by this.
Well, it would be good for everyone. We live in a global economy, and since 1979, when Iran rose up and overthrew a dictator who was supported by the United States, the Shah, there has been tension between the United States and Iran. And Iran has said they want to participate in the global economy. They want to trade, they want to sell, they want to be treated just like any other country. And that would really be good for everyone. That's really what's going on.
And the truth is, when you have sanctions on a country, you have less control over that country. I mean, there's been an argument that we should have gotten rid of sanctions against Cuba decades and decades ago, that would have sped reform there. Are you a proponent believing that if we removed sanctions that we could speed reform in Iran because we'd have a little bit more economic authority over them?
Well, I think, Iran is part of the global economy. They're certainly trading with Russia and China. So, the question is, are they going to be able to trade with everyone or just with some countries that are sympathetic to them? Obama made remarks, and one thing Obama did say in his comments this morning is he pointed out that Iran did suffer itself chemical attacks during the war from Iraq. And the thing that Obama left out was that those chemical attacks were carried out with U.S. support. The U.S. supported Saddam Hussein in carrying out those attacks and even provided satellite assistance to the attacks, and they pointed out that was a little frustration. But Dr. Rouhani, he's been in the United States, and he's been saying, look,
the new president of Iran.
The new president of Iran. He says we don't want a war. We don't want this tension to continue. We want peace with the United States, and they want peace.
Well, we've always heard that, though, from the Iranians, that the speech is on the correct side, except for the former president, who was a little bit more probably acidic than many people would have liked. And that certainly didn't help situations. But what actions do you believe Iran has to take? This is a country that we know supports terrorism.
Well, the U.S. is also supporting the People's Mujahideen, which is a group in Iran that is engaging in terrorist attacks. The U.S. did support, Iraq and Saddam Hussein in attacking Iran. So the trouble goes both ways. But international conflict isn't good. It's not good for business. It's not good for anybody. Okay, and the more open things can be, the more happy everyone's going to be.
And let's get back to business for a moment. If they do remove the economic sanctions, who will benefit? The Iranian people will benefit, no doubt, because they've had a crummy economy for 30 years. And what U.S. industries would you think?
I would say oil would certainly benefit. I think, the possibilities are endless. If Iranian companies were able to start trading with U.S. companies, the possibilities are really endless. And the real force that is opposing this is Israel. Israel is very opposed to this because they see Iran as a threat. And these sanctions are
they see Iran as a threat because, let's be honest, the former president has routinely said that we're going to wipe Israel off the map.
Well, if you look at the translation of those remarks, that's kind of a distortion of what he said. But in reality, these sanctions are based on the false premise that Iran is trying to develop nuclear weapons. And what the president of Iran made clear is that they have no intention of doing that. They're simply trying to develop nuclear power so that they can provide electricity to their country, that many other countries have nuclear power. This country, we have nuclear power everywhere. And that's what they want, and they would fully cooperate in ensuring everyone that they were not.
But you must want to see real reforms on a democratic level in Iran.
I think the Iranians have the right to run Iran. The people of Iraq have the right to run Iraq. The people of the United States have the right to run this country, and that it's not.
But do the people of Iran really have the right to run Iran? They've had a series of elections that have been considered fraudulent.
I think it's up to the Iranian people to decide how their country should be run. It's not up to Washington, D.C. or Wall Street, and I think that's the standard by which international relations should go. The concept of self-determination is a basic democratic right, and that's something that people should recognize.
Okay, you've been following this issue for some time. A legitimate chance that we'll start to see some thawing here and possibly real diplomatic talks?
Absolutely. It's very, very exciting. This is a very hopeful moment, and we can hope that the decades of tension could come to an end, and Iran, the United States, and many other countries can sit down and start talking about peace instead of talking about war. Okay,
Caleb, you're over at the United Nations this week. Wish you the best of luck. It's certainly going to be interesting over there. It's an interesting time. Thank you for coming in.
And thank you.
Thank you. Finally, in business headlines right now, the box office hit a record high this summer, pulling in $4.5 billion, thanks to blockbusters like Iron Man 3. The Marvel film starring Robert Downey Jr. made about $1.5 billion, just about doubling Iron Man 2's global earnings from 2010. Another hit this summer, the animated film Despicable Me 2. It's Universal's most profitable film to date, earning over $828 million, while costing only $76 million to make. It also trounced Monsters University, a domestic box office at the domestic box office. But not every film was a success. Flops like R.I.P.D. with Jeff Bridges and Ryan Reynolds didn't even earn half of its budget back. Typically, movies have to earn about twice their budget to actually earn back those costs. Of course, Hollywood has a history of creative accounting, we should say. And stealing the headlines, the much-anticipated Lone Ranger. It grossed a disappointing, dismal $239 million. Disney announcing that it may have to take a write-down of as much as $190 million on the Western starring Johnny Depp, which, as I understand, Depp was trying to get made now for more than a decade. You are watching Arise Exchange. Welcome back to Arise Exchange. In just a few days, businesses of all sizes must start complying with aspects of the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, even if they don't have to provide health insurance. There remains a whole lot of confusion. One person who has been helping us through it all is Aaron Smith of A.W. Smith Financial. Good afternoon, Aaron, and welcome back to Arise.
Thank you, Andrew, for having me once again. And I'd love to be here with you.
Well, this is sort of our favorite topic right now. So let me start where we kind of left it off last time. Where do we stand right now? What are the key things that are going to happen on Tuesday?
Well, first of all, on Tuesday, we have to understand that there are two different portals, you should say, with the exchange. We have the individual portal, Andrew, and we have the small business exchange portal. And right now, it looks like the small business exchange portal is not all running as well as we want it to run in many states.
What a surprise there. What is supposed to happen in the small business portal, assuming that it was going to be run correctly? And is this portal a federal government portal or is it a state-run portal?
Well, it can be either or. If there's a state that does not, if there's a governorship, I would say, in the state that you reside in, and they don't offer a state program, it would be offered by the federal government. Otherwise, it will be offered by the state government. This portal is designed to allow you, the employer, a small business owner, to go on to this portal and offer some type of coverage for your employees. Your employees will have an opportunity, Andrew, to go on these portals and get their health insurance. That's what it's designed for, and that's what you have to notify, Andrew, your employees of.
Well, I'm pretty confident that the federal government will get it fixed in 3 days. I will say this, that the Labor Department has this frequently asked questions sheet that they're giving employers, and I have seen it. And it leads to more questions than answers. Something you brought up last time is even if you're not going to provide health care, you need to provide your employees a certain type of notification. And I bet you there are a lot of small businesses out there that are not familiar with it.
Well, I tell you what, I am very familiar with it, and you're absolutely right. Many small business owners are not, Andrew, familiar with it. And a matter of fact, I have a copy of it right here in front of me.
I like it. You bring it here, Aaron. You bring the props.
I'm bringing it, and I would select that all your viewers, the small business owners, go to healthcare.gov. Go there and get the information. If you do not provide coverage, if you earn at least over $500,000 in revenue in your small business and you have at least one employee, Andrew, and you don't provide a notification mandate to your employees, then you are going to be penalized for every single employee you don't notify.
And if you're an employee, if you're the one employee in your company, you probably have to give that form to yourself. I imagine. Let me ask you about this government shutdown and what small businesses are thinking. Do they support the idea of shutting down the government over the Health Care Act?
Well, not really. I mean, small business owners are really, think about, small business owners, Andrew, wear many hats. It's not just healthcare. You know, they're concerned about lending. They're concerned about regulation. They're concerned about taxes. So they're not put all of their energy into healthcare, but they want the right thing to happen, not only for large corporations, but equally for themselves, such as small business.
And let me just ask you in general about the threat of a small business government shutdown. Is that going to have a significant impact for small businesses, or are they just going to keep going on their way?
I think they're going to keep going. I think, small business owners are resilient. We're resilient people. We have what we call a discipline, I should say, or persistence in who we are to keep moving. So there are many things that always happen in our country that we don't totally agree with, Andrew, but we keep moving along.
That's true. Small businesses have been very resilient during the economic downturn and have been handling this very well. Aaron, we will have you back on soon, of course, once the program rolls out to talk more about it and talk about other small business issues. Aaron Smith of A.W. Smith Financial, thank you for coming on again.
I would love to come back. Thank you, Andrew.
And you are watching Arise Exchange. Time now for our favorite person of the day, when we pick one person that grabbed our attention and not for the right reasons. And today, that person is this guy. He's a good-looking guy, isn't he? He's professor of veterinary medicine at the University of Florida, Don Samuelson. Apparently, dissecting frogs wasn't enough excitement for the good doctor. Police say Samuelson has confessed to using camera pens in class to film up the skirts of his female students and capture shots of their cleavage as well. Samuelson says he only did it to women who didn't wear underwear to prove that they weren't dressed inappropriately. But how would he not know? He is now likely to be fired. And that makes Don Samuelson not only a creepy professor, but our favorite person of the day. You are watching Arise Exchange. Let's talk more now about the budget stalemate and what may happen with the U.S. Federal Reserve. Basil Smikle is a political strategist and professor at Columbia University, is a frequent guest here at Arise, and welcome back to the program as always. So let's start with the budget stalemate. The deadline is October 1st. Lots of things happening October 1st. The likelihood of an actual government shutdown, which hasn't happened in about, 1996?
Yeah, it's going back to the mid-90s. And for that reason and for others, I think it's unlikely. This is something that the Republicans do not want to have on their hands. They're trying to gut Obamacare, and although a lot of Republicans, and depending on the state you are, most Republicans don't like the bill, what they really don't like is government stalemate. They don't like the fact that things cannot get through Congress, which is at their lowest approval ratings, I think, in history. And so this is going to be a hard sell for Republicans to go back to their districts. Next year's the midterm election, to be able to say, we did this on your behalf. Really? Well, nobody's working. People still don't have jobs. And that's a harder sell.
And people forget that the federal government does provide services that, whether you like certain government services or not, when you start missing them, you start blaming the people who have taken them away from you. And it appears by the polls and by the way the Republican Party itself is acting that Republicans would be to blame here. And the president certainly has been out front in that.
Absolutely. And if you go back to the 90s, when the government shut down twice, it cost $1.4 billion to open and close government. And that's not a number that is that's sellable to the American public.
Right, and the Republicans are talking about cutting spending, it's expensive to shut down the government.
That's right. It's an indefensible number. And no one wants to see this happen. I do think that the Republicans are facing a little more backlash on this than the president will. going into the midterm elections next year. But the other thing that I actually also think is interesting is that if we do get to raise this debt ceiling, what happens is that the president doesn't have to make the cuts in the sequester that are across the board as he has been. He actually can target some of these cuts. But what I also found to be interesting is that, even after some discussion and some anger about this, we've kind of actually done okay.
With the sequester.
With the sequester.
Well, I was about to
done-
bring this up because we hear this doomsday scenario that if the government shuts down or we don't get the budget passed or we don't raise the debt ceiling, we heard the same story when it came to the sequester. And I refer to it similarly to the argument over Y2K. Remember when we went to 2000, the world was going to end.
Right.
We were all going to live in that new TV show revolution where the lights go out, right? Didn't happen.
Right.
And the sequester has not brought the economy to a screeching halt.
No, look, and there are some really important cuts that did take place, cuts in Head Start programs and so on. So there are some very important cuts that did happen. But by and large, I think what the business community appreciates, and to be honest with you, I think some voters do as well, is government tightening its belt. And if it had to happen by choice or by force, they want it to happen nonetheless. And I think you've seen the markets have still done very, very well with this sequester with this sequester in place. And I don't think the president wants to have to go that route. I think he wants to make targeted spending cuts, but I don't think any of this is going to shut the government down. I think we will see it move forward.
I'll tell you what's spooking, in my opinion, the markets more right now is what's going on with the U.S. Federal Reserve. This is an organization that used to be kind of cloaked in secrecy and now has apparently hired a PR expert who hasn't been doing a very good job, frankly. They're just cranking out press releases all the time and making statements. What is the Fed's role here, and what do they now have to do to sort of get their house in order so the markets get some clarity? And again, they will tell you they're not about the market, but no one really believes that.
No one believes that, and it really isn't true. What they need to figure out right now is sort of where they really and deeply feel that the country is going right now. We've seen that they've signaled a taper, which didn't take place. We've actually seen an extension of the quantitative easing. And what that says to me, and it says to a lot of people, that they're still concerned about the recovery. Has the recovery actually taken place? Is it still flatlining? How modest is it? I think they really need to get comfortable with where the recovery is and be realistic about it and start sending out appropriate signals to that effect. That puts government in the place that it should be, and tells kind of signals to the president what he should be doing more, and it signals to the business community what it should be doing more. But the fact that they've sort of sent out mixed messages, I think, puts them in a place where people are sort of stepping back and saying, we don't really know what's going on.
And so maybe we'll get more clarity if Janet Yellen, in fact, becomes the Fed chair?
I think we'll get more clarity, and I will tell you, it's sort of an odd political victory for the president to not have to deal with Larry Summers.
I was about to say, did he botch this, or did he stumble into a success?
Yeah, I think he stumbled into a success. If you go back and look at the record of Larry Summers, besides him being a little brusque, while he was president of Harvard and in some other instances, fact of the matter is he had a significant role in gutting and deregulation,
That's right.
which led to the financial crisis, and people have drawn that direct
He was
line.
the architect behind the Glass-Steagall being taken down, et cetera.
Exactly, and I think that is a fight that the president does not want to have with Republicans or Democrats.
Okay, Basil Smikle, thank you for coming in.
Good to be here.
I appreciate it. A quick recap right now of the market. Stocks finished down for the fourth straight day. The Dow Jones Industrial Average losing about 60 points. On Wednesday, we'll discuss the new trade initiatives by the United Nations to help developing countries and what exactly the UN is doing on the economic front. Two key economic reports come out. We'll get more on durable goods orders and sales of new homes. That's Arise Exchange for this Tuesday. I'm Andrew Schmertz. I'll see you tomorrow.